one day I had an epiphany. I don't have to do this. It's hard work. I'm not getting anywhere. So I need to reevaluate my life. And I just stopped working. And I didn't know how I was going to make ends meet. I didn't have any savings to speak of. I had a lot of equipment and a lot of ambition, but it's just real disillusion again. And that was a recurrent theme in my life, this high of being excited about the prospects and then the disillusionment when things didn't work out. So I just stayed home with my family and just did some reflection, just looking inside, introspection, and trying to figure out what was I going to do. And then one day I heard this little voice in my head, and it said, start a community garden. And I thought it was an absolutely ludicrous idea because I lived in a public housing complex where there was tremendous amount of crime and awful amount of drugs and a lot of discouraged people who had basically just given up on life and, you know, just wallowed in self-pity and drug abuse. And I couldn't really understand how a community garden could work or even begin in a community like that and how it could be sustainable. So I spent a lot of time arguing with this voice in my head, you know, wondering if I was on the verge of madness or was this really a message from God. And I just kept arguing, and finally I got tired of arguing because I knew if I didn't, I would go crazy. And I decided to go ahead and take a leap of faith and ask the management of the complex if I could start a community garden, with the almost definite feeling that they would say no, and I'd be free of this burden. Well, I went and asked them, and they said yes. They told me I could have an old softball field, and I walked down to the space and I looked at it, and I realized I had $2 in my pocket and 2 shovels and 2 grass rakes and 2 mattocks, and that was it. And there was no way I could do it, and I just said, forget it, this is crazy, I'm not going to do it. And at this point I hadn't even told my wife. I just went home and forgot about it. And so I got a call one day from the office. They told me to come up there. They had a message for me, and I went up there, and some woman called and said she's got some plants that she wants to donate. And I called the woman, and the woman said, yeah, I heard you're trying to start a garden. I think that's a great idea. I've got some things I'd like to donate, and I'd like you guys to come out here and pick them up. And she took us in a greenhouse and opened the door, and she said, I want you to take everything in there. And we looked, and there were just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of plants. There were tomatoes and peppers and flowers and herbs. And she absolutely gave it all to us. We got it down here, and the thing that I had noticed from the first day that Gwen and I were working, that there were always children standing at the fence watching us and asking us if they could be involved. And most of these children I had never even seen, didn't know them, didn't know their parents, but you know, I knew the community, and I knew that these kids didn't really have a safe place to play. There was so much gun shots and gun fights going on in the community. So at that point, I realized that more than anything, we were probably building a sanctuary, a place of safety for these children. So we invited them in, and they rolled around and wrestled in the dirt and threw dirt at each other, and they just had a ball. Because at that time we didn't really have anything to do for them to do. But now we had all these plants, and they came down the day after we got the plants, and they were like, Mr. Robert, can we plant that stuff? And I said, yeah, let's plant.